Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Just before we start, I'd like to welcome everybody back, inshallah, to our class, inshallah. And with the hope and intention, inshallah, that we will complete this year, inshallah, and we will encourage others to come, inshallah. So let us put our hands together and make dua, inshallah. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam, tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Allahumma rabbana yassir wa la tu'assir wa tamam bil khair wa bika nasta'een ya fattah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ربنا زدنا علما نافعا وعملا متقبلا ورزقا واسعا وشفاعا من كل داء فسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We're going to continue, inshallah, from where we left off on blissful marriage. And what was the focus of our discussion during that particular time was we were talking about basically what it is for a Muslim couple to enjoy a blissful marriage. And in that, we focused on a number of things. What is the real focus of a Muslim couple? What is their objective together? And that is, firstly, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That part of our relationship with our iman is marriage. In fact, the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that marriage is half of iman, or the completion of our faith. There is a connection with that in the relationship that one carries about themselves in a marriage with. And every intelligent Muslim who has that thinking in their minds will know that both male and female, men and women, will know what is important and what is there as necessary in the ingredients to hold on to a marriage, and what is unnecessary that should be discarded, what should be disallowed and removed, so that a marriage as a Muslim couple would work and be beneficial. And that is what we are focusing on. What are those things that we need to hold on to, and those things we need to discard, get rid of, so that our marriage will work and become something that is pleasing and something that is what? Enjoyable. In this respect, we looked at what is the real focus. It is three things. Companionship, that is why we get married. One is to have someone, as Allah has made for us, a spouse as a means of companion to bring sakina and tranquility into our life. To have children, this is the next part of the creation of us as Muslims, is that we want children. Allah has created man and woman with this purpose in mind as well, for procreation, for extending the family, and also for chastity. The next point, the third point, to protect ourselves from evil and wrong and shameful actions. Now, we concentrated on one main point, which was companionship, and we did discuss this point at length, and a number of things we went through in companionship. One, the reason of companionship, one of them being worship. That we come together for the sake of Allah, that we'll be able to encourage each other in worship. We also looked at the aspect of speech and communication in a companionship and relationship. That speech is a very important aspect of our relationship. Also, sharing in household chores. We discussed how important it is that a couple should share in household chores. We also discussed the importance of spending our wealth, our money with each other and on each other, and on that relationship to grow with our spending, and also in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not becoming wasteful with our earnings. And that was very important, because sometimes we lost control of what wealth means to us, and sometimes we become a slave of it. The next aspect of it is we looked at, in companionship as well, praising the good work of the individual, your spouse, for what they do for you. Be grateful for what someone does for you in that relationship. Not to ignore it, or not to look at it scantily, or think that you deserve this response, that they have a responsibility to you, that they have to fulfill it. And if they don't fulfill it, you get vexed or angry by it. But every time someone does an action that is good for you, one must recognize this and praise that person and show gratitude to Allah and praise that individual, so that person knows that they are acknowledged and one seemingly to be very well clear to them that their presence is felt and acknowledged. Now, living with in-laws in a companionship and a relationship with your spouse is also the next aspect that we look at. That a person living with your in-laws, we said that there are many factors that could play off there. That once you're with your in-laws, many things can take place. That sometimes the mother-in-law or the father-in-law or the brother-in-law or sister-in-law, the case would be in either side, whether it's on the boy's side or the girl, that the boy lives with the girl's parents or the girl lives with the boy with his parents, whichever direction it goes in, there is a possibility that there could be interference from either side of the family. And for the woman, her rights, if she's staying at the husband's home, then his brothers have to also respect that they cannot enter into her private chambers, her room, and her private areas by their own whims and fancies, unless they have consultation or permission from their brother or from this woman, the brother's wife. Then we look at spending time with one's spouse and the importance of spending that time. Sometimes when we think we get married and we think that, well, now it's time to just start to work and build things, we lose focus on what is more important than marriage. That marriage was not there and meant for the things that we make it out today. We make that, what we make out marriage today to be, is that someone who facilitates us by either providing for us additional salary to make things go in the marriage, or to make things more comfortable at home, or to provide some additional place to stay, or to form some sort of additional benefit like this. And we think that this is what marriage is about. Marriage was never an accommodation for wealth, property in the relationship that we look at it today for. So if we want to get married for some reason, we look at that individual, that person must have a good job, or the woman must have a good job today, or the man must have a good job, a well-paying job, and then they look at their likes and dislikes in that relationship therein onwards. And that is not the objective of marriage, and that was not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created marriage for. If that was the purpose, then it would have been like animals that are breeding. They would look for the best stock animal to produce the best of the outcome that they desire. And that is not what is, as human beings, what Allah has made human beings for. And spending time with one another is very important, because if we ignore that right, a time would come when we'd lose the opportunity when we could have enjoyed that relationship in the early part of that enjoyment of spending time. Whilst we grow older, we become sick, and the enjoyment that one could have had whilst they were young in their marriage, they would have enjoyed a better lifestyle, a more enjoyable time together. But when you become older in that marriage, the conditions change, the relationship also change. It no longer becomes a sense of enjoyment that you would have enjoyed different types of things while you were young in that marriage. But when you get older, the conditions change, the feelings also change, and there is no longer that type of relationship. So you have to enjoy it as you grow old in a marriage. So spending time is very important from whilst a person is new in that marriage. We also speak of the importance of maintaining a high level of beauty and a high level of consciousness in your marriage. In other words, yourself, your being, who you are. Do not just say, well, we are living together and you can dress as you like, and well, we're there right here. Always maintain a level of composure that will always make yourself look attracted to your husband, and likewise the husband must also keep himself in a good attire that will also show to the wife that he is attracted. So there is an attraction between both parties. And now this attraction is not only just talking about a physical beauty, but this attraction comes with good words too, with good appearance, with good mannerism, with kindness, with love and sharing with each other. This is what this character is about. So this beauty is more based on a principle of a combined effort. So the enhancement is that just as you used to induce, or just say encourage that person to fall in love with you. You would do things, for example, like give them gifts. You would say nice things to them. You would, encourage them, help them along. These things must never stop for the relationship to continue and have a good enhanced beauty. Tonight, inshallah, we reach the point where we're looking at the things that we have to discard, and some of the things that we have to look at, especially that could cause destruction to us in our relationship. Whilst we are in companionship and relationship with our wife, our husband, we must note where is the red flag. That if this goes up, or we do this particular action, we must know the consequence and the end result of what may happen to us. Perhaps Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put mercy in the heart of each spouse that they may not, react in a way that is going to cause destruction in their relationship. One of these is exposing the private issues of your spouse. The private issues of your spouse, those things that no one except you, she or he had told about some things, or certain things that you have seen and she or he, husband or wife, don't want no one else to know about. Because they, in confidence, believe and trust in you and rely on you that you would keep in confidence these things that they don't want exposed. And these are not talking about relationships where there's abuse. We're not talking about these type of things where there's abuse or violence. We're not talking about keeping these things hidden. We're talking about things that are way beyond that. And those types of threats and so on are not to be kept hidden. So it is the responsibility of the husband not to disclose the secrets of his wife, nor should the wife disclose the secrets of the husband. That is a responsibility, a shared responsibility. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu said, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, one of the most evil people before Allah on the day of resurrection will be a man who is intimate with his wife and she is intimate with him, then he publicizes her secrets. Hadith found in Sahih Muslim. It tells us clearly that what goes on in our relationship privately, it ought to remain privately. If it is only exposed, it brings about such an evil that is considered that this individual becomes one of the most evil person. And this is very important to recognize, that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam shows how important it is to maintain this level of privacy and relationship with your spouse, that it doesn't go beyond where it should be. It is shameful on the part of a husband to discuss about the intimate moments of his wife with her in front of others. He cannot discuss these things in front of other people. This damages the modesty of the lady or his wife, I would say, and Islam takes the issue of modesty, especially of women, very seriously. Allah considers such a man to be one of the most evil of the men. Likewise, a woman should not speak of these matters with her husband among others, or by herself among others, be it a group of women or men. Women cannot go and gossip their relationship with their husband in front of other women. We cannot say about my husband is like this or like that, and so on and so on, and expose any of their private affairs within that relationship with any other woman. Likewise, a man should not do this even amongst other men, because these are things that Allah has kept between him and his wife. These are what Allah and the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that should remain within the two of them. So even in this relationship, there are certain things that should be kept with a husband and a wife only. The Holy Quran tells us, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, it says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُحِبُّونَ أَن تَشِيعَ الْفَاحِشَةَ فِي الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, He says, indeed, those who like that shamelessness should be spread or publicized among those who have believed will have a painful punishment in this world and in the hereafter. And Allah knows and you do not know. Surah Nur, Surah 24, verse 19. That because someone wants to maintain some level of immoral talk, or even things that will persuade someone to think of things that are immoral. And this is a very important thing that we should know, that speaking talks or giving any type of or speech that is going to encourage someone to think of someone in a bad way, in a negative way, or in a way that will embarrass that individual or make that person be defamed, it should not be done, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we should not spread such evil. We should not spread such shameless ways amongst us. In other words, we should maintain a level or a high level of speech. So it may be at times that there are certain men and women who would provoke a spouse into finding out their private matters, which at times may lead to embarrassment if those individuals don't get their way. So there are people like that. They want to know everything that goes on with you and your husband or with your wife. And they will ask questions over and over in all different ways to know what is happening in your home, in your private areas, in your private rooms, and they want to find out your personal life. How you just deal with this. Tell me how you just deal with that. They want to know all these things. These things are not for anyone else to know. And we cleared very first step that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear, and the Quran makes it clear, the Sunnah makes it clear, that these private matters, no matter how someone tries to pry into it, we cut it off immediately, especially if they are Muslims. Especially if they are Muslims, they should be also conscious about the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a stop to such things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prevented us from making aware or making people become such that they want to know about our personal life in our rooms and other issues that may affect them. Which may be different than a person asking a genuine question in general about personal things that they might want to know about in a relationship, but it must not narrow down that they are thinking that you are saying what is really your way or your practice or your behavior in your private life. So if someone even asks a question, it must not be said that this is what you do or this is the way I do, or because this will show that they're actually intending to get what they really want out of you. And this is not what we are told that should happen by in any means. We must always remember, as Muslims, we are mandated to protect each other as spouses in a relationship. Allah has given us that right, that we must protect each other. And we are a garment unto each other, a shield and a protection to each other against any type of what? Shamelessness, against any type of thing that may come to harm or hurt any one of us. So the Holy Quran tells us again, it says, O you who believe, avoid much suspicion. Indeed, some suspicions are sins. And spy not, neither backbite one another. Would one of you like to eat the flesh of his dead brother? You would hate it. So hate backbiting and fear Allah. Verily Allah is the one who accepts repentance, most merciful. Surah Hujurat, Surah 49, verse number 12. And that you think that backbiting and slandering and so on is only against somebody else, not your husband and wife. So if a wife goes and tells somebody else about her husband, that is not backbiting. There are certain things that will be considered and there are certain things that are allowed. If certain things, as we will come along to discuss in the next topic, we will see that allowance is given for her to give under certain conditions, or to say what happens openly, or to redress certain conditions of where she's been abused or so on, then she has the right to do that. But on her own, to say things that are privately within a relationship, or for him to say something privately in their relationship that has no concern where there is any danger or harm to each other in that relationship, there is a full stop on it, that we are going to border on the line of backbiting in a case like this, other than the other relationship. So yes, a husband or a wife could fall in the same category as backbiting each other. once they go along that pathway. Narrated by Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala an, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, a Muslim is a brother of another Muslim, so he should not oppress him, nor should he hand him over to his Satan or to himself, which is inclined to evil. Whoever fulfills the needs of his brother, Allah will fulfill his needs. Whoever removes the troubles of his brother, Allah will remove one of his troubles on the day of resurrection. And whoever covers the fault of a Muslim, Allah will cover up his fault on the day of resurrection. Hadith found in Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. And that is not only for a Muslim brother to brother, that is within the relationship of husband and wife as well. It's not that we want to expose each other or to bring down the character or the behavior in a way that we want to belittle our husband or our wife. Because this is not what a relationship should ever be. That, in front of your spouse, you would say things that, that he don't want nobody else to know. You're exposing all their faults. And Allah says, if you cover this, Allah will cover your faults. Allah will cover your faults. Yes, there may be things that you may not like with your husband, but you go and tell everybody. They talk about a particular subject matter. He like this, he like this, so they talk about some kind of washroom problems he has have. Somebody bring up some kind of washroom problem or issue. And you say, well, my husband, just like that. He may not want to hear that in public, but you will say, my husband is just like that. So you sell out your husband and this whole affair about something that he don't want to tell anybody about. If it is that it's supposed to be said to some doctor or something else, yeah, but no problem with that. But in front of everyone else where he will feel embarrassed, or you might expose him to something that he did not really want to be exposed to, then these are things that we should avoid. So you cannot humiliate or expose things that is going to bring down the status of your spouse. And hence, this hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam tells us clearly, if we cover these faults, Allah will cover our faults. And it starts home. If that parent, or in this case, a husband or a wife, they start to bash each other in front of their children like this, exposing each other's fault in front of their children, what would their children also do? Their children will also lose respect for them. And they will speak to them in a like manner. Why? Because we expose the faults and the weaknesses of each other in front of our own children. And likewise, if it is done in public, it's going to also lose respect for each other, and it's also going to put that person in a position that they will feel they have to compromise and be in a position where they have to always compromise. And this is what we don't want for each other. And therefore, exposing faults is strictly prohibited in this deen in respect to that. Allah's Messenger says so, and the Quran also gives us that. Sometimes we may think that this is joke and fun, laugh. Sometimes we think about it like that and we just carry about ourselves and nobody will remember that. But who knows? Maybe the wrong person might be hearing it. The person who you least expect to hear it will be the one who will cause the most destruction by hearing it. And you never expect that person to say nothing. But you say, we only talk that talk here. But it reach all over. Because that person was only waiting to just hear that. And you tell that person, don't tell nobody, it's because he wants to tell everybody. So like certain people that say, don't tell nobody, that's the person you tell because he wants to make sure everybody knew. If you want everybody to know, just tell him. And say, don't tell nobody. And that's the right person. So matters relating to private life must be discussed with their spouse as to what type of action should be taken to resolve the problems, be it medical or spiritual or whatever it may be. It should be done. Spiritual guidelines or related professional help, that may be required. But do not go the route of publicizing your private matters. If it is that your husband or your wife has a problem, a spiritual problem, don't just take it outside of the relationship and just start to say, well, my husband needs help, my wife needs help, and telling everybody see, and you just go and tell everybody. It may not be the right way because they may feel embarrassed by it. There may be a medical problem, deal with it like that. It may be other professional problems that they have, but you're just going to tell everybody that. Suppose your husband can't read at all. Let's suppose he can't read nothing, right? Time to read, he just holding a book like that. I say, what he holding a book for? But he can't read, he has a book in his hand. You're telling everybody like that, he can't read. Right? He just had a book in his hand and you did this. What are you going to do to him? That's just an example. What embarrassment you're putting for him, but he's there, he may be pretending or whatever he may be doing with it, but at the same time, you go and expose this is going to put him in a further embarrassing position. Right? So these things, instead of saying, well, you can't read and you're going to expose him and you make him embarrassed, say, well, let's discuss how we could solve this problem. You get somebody to tutor him or you tutor him yourself and get him to what? Learn to read and solve the problem. And likewise with many other issues that you may have with each other, privately things that you don't really expose, you sit down together and you discuss it and it what? Resolve it there and then so that no one becomes what? Embarrassed by it. And that is the way we deal with personal issues. Personal issues are saying that those things that only a husband and wife really shares. Nobody else. And the Quran and the Sunnah of the Rasul give us guidelines that these are things that must be protected in a relationship. Because sometimes when it's exposed, it causes a tremendous hurt that sometimes could never be reversed. That can never be reversed. Because this person will say, you hurt me for life. Therefore, it is best that when those red flags come up and those issues we see, we must know how to treat it. It's not like you keep it silent, but you as an individual or a couple should sit, discuss, and resolve it in a private manner. Or if you need to get some help, take it in a manner that will be sought out in a private way with a third person if need be, but it remains within that individual and yourselves and no one else. But not to broadcast it openly or publicize it. All right. Now we're looking at the next issue now, the next red flag, one that we should look at in relationship to discard if it comes along, how to deal with it. Dealing with disagreements and arguments in a marriage. Now, this is one of the most challenging aspects of a marriage. Arguments. Arguments and disagreements seems to have no end in relationships today. It seems as though we can't understand what it is to agree or agree to disagree in a relationship. So marriages usually start off so nicely. Everything going good in the honeymoon period. So nicely. Everyone cooperating. The couple themselves, their parents, other relatives, and friends. Everybody walking along real smooth when it starts off. No problem at all. It starts off on a good foot. Solid. And things running usually very smooth. But somewhere along the way, marital disputes pop up. It just started to happen. It just started to appear. This is, of course, natural. But these can escalate into dangerous levels if not dealt with correctly. And that is important. If we don't know how to deal with these issues of disagreements and arguments, it could go way out of hand. And that is why we have to look at it as Muslims. In our society today, what if we would ask ourselves, why it is that we have so many people getting married and there are many disagreements, and today we have people with lots of knowledge, people with big degrees, all kind of PhD and all kind of different things, and they still have a marital problem. We talk about these people with high level of intelligence. Both spouses, high level of intelligence, and you would expect with the level of intelligence and akal that they have, the knowledge that they have, that they will be able to deal with issues and problems and disagreements and not even have, because they're able to see through and understand things. But yet these are the said people who goes to different levels of education and seem to have more problems than people of the past who would have actually adjusted with little or no education, who would have probably had some basic training in life with certain things, that jobs and things they do, and yet survive a marriage. It is hard to understand, how these things are quite possible. How it is that you can live today and see so many marriages, and statistics have proven that counseling and all these different avenues are more in number today. Divorce is in a higher rate than ever before. Any part of the world, anywhere you go, this is statistics that proves that this is in the highest state that it was ever before, ever in history. And we have to, as Muslims, figure out, where does it stem from? It stems from this. Nobody will just smile and say, well, I don't want you again. It doesn't just happen like that. It starts with disagreements and arguments. It starts there. Something went wrong since we started our marriage. Because it was nice. Because you like this person. You just married this person because you wanted to what? Marry. You married this individual because you wanted to have a good life. You wanted to enjoy life. You wanted life to be happy. You wanted tranquility and peace. So why then you have to argue? Why you must disagree for? If it is in the first place you are going to get married, if you ask yourselves, if any one of us here, have we ever had an argument with our spouse? Obviously, those who are married, they'll say, yes. Without a doubt, everyone would have somewhere along the line have some sort of argument with their spouse. And ask ourselves, what is that argument about? Was it about you didn't read Quran? So you disagree about what? Not reading Quran? Or did you disagree about not praying Salat? Your Salah on time? Or did you disagree because you didn't pay Zakat? Or did you disagree because you had the money to go for Hajj and you didn't go for Hajj and you argue because of that? You think these are the reasons why they argue? Never are these the issues for arguments. What are the issues then? All right? The issues are all related to what? This life. Things that affect us in the way our habits are. The things that affect us and surround us in the way we do things. Our habits. Arguments are not about the other things. So what is happening in the world today with marriages and the relationship when it comes to disagreements and arguments is that we are self-centered. We are individuals in a relationship that tells us we want companionship. We want companionship, but we only want it to a certain level. You see when you reach that point? That is the ticking point. Don't come beyond this with me. We have a relationship, but you must know that relationship only end here. Where in Islam that Allah tells us that a person enters in a relationship with someone and says, well, you know what, you have a borderline between our relationship. You see this? Don't ask me about these things. See this here? Leave that there. Now I'm talking about things like, I don't know my secret past and all kind of things. I know about those things. I'm talking about a person now, he lives his life, but he puts it in a manner, I get married to you to do a few things. For we salary to work together, and this to be together, and that to be together. But you see that? I have my way. This is not what we're talking about. This is what happens in our society today in our marriage. And that is not what is required for a marriage to be successful. So let's look at it. It tells us that marital disagreements are not isolated to a particular group of spouses, since the issues vary with each couple. So not one group of people have problems in marriages. Many class of people, just call it, in our society we have class, whether you're wealthy, middle class, or poverty class, whichever class, all of them have levels of disagreements in their relationship. So not one. Whether you're educated, not so educated, no matter what, degree or no degree, there is level of disagreements with every level of relationship in a marriage. So these issues stem from number one issue, Guess what it is? And people say, well, this doesn't affect nobody. Money. Money is the number one issue for disagreements and arguments. In a marital relationship, money is number one. Hard to imagine that, eh? That we would think that money would become the cause of many relationships going in a state of disagreement and arguments. And why? Why would money become the main issue in a relationship? It's not that you're looking for the money, you want just the money, but it stems with what? Comforts. It stems with the things you desire in your life, the goals you want to achieve materially. Everything is about these things. I want this, I want that, I want to have this. You see somebody else have something, you want it. And what do you need to have all these things? Money. You need to have money to have all these things. So you make sacrifices in your life just to have these things to get money. So money is the key for many arguments in a relationship. If a husband buys something that is not liked by the wife, what he buys it with? Money. If the wife buys something and the husband thinks that is wasting money, what she buys it with? Money, and he considers that is wasting money. And they would argue over the wastage of money or things that they don't like when they spend that money. And then you argue over the money, how much you're earning, where you put the money, who have the money, how much money you're giving me, how much money you're spending on the family, how much money you're saving, and everything goes on with money. No one asks about if you miss Salat and they argue over that. They argue about what? The money. How much of that we see in society today. And when anything goes extremely sour in the relationship and it goes to divorce, they go to court and settle it on the basis of what? You think they go to court to do what? Say, well, I just divorce you and you can go your way? No. We want our money or have a financial settlement. How much money is for me and how much money will be for you. So it all goes to what? Just money. Think about it. Think how much people argue over this. And how far would one go with this? It all boils down to the expectations that people think in life and what they go after in their marriage after with money. And when marriage was not for this purpose, and many people were fooled into this. In other words, when someone comes to ask for your daughter in marriage, what is the first issue? They would ask, what kind of job you have? How much money you're earning? How much you're working for? You could maintain my wife? Money. It comes down to what? Money. So you put into the girl's mind that the husband must only be about what? Money. It's not that money is not important in the relationship because he must be able to fulfill those needs. But the first thing is what? Money. You tell your daughter already, he must have money. And nothing is wrong with it, but it's the wrong approach, wrong mentality. Priority is bent on the wrong direction. And is and that's the wrong approach from the very beginning. It is the wrong thoughts, the wrong knowledge that we share with what? Our family. And if we look at it, if we start the foundation like this, what do we expect for that relationship to go forward with? What did the Sahabas do? Companions did. Do you think they had this go for a job and they say, well, the other people would ask, other companions would ask, well, what is your job? What type of money you're earning so you can mind my daughter? What did Rasulullah do to some of the companions? Even on ayats of Quran, they will give their what? Mahar. Because it was not about money. It is about being in the line of spirituality. And once we start on the wrong foot, it grows. It's like starting to feed a demon, a Satan, a shaitan. trying to show that this is what we have gotten married for. But you know, you tell you was doing this kind of job and you was getting this kind of money. But where the money they now? I was just what? Hoaxing. I just wanted to get married, you know, but really and truly, we didn't come into a marriage because of this. If a person gets into a marriage and gets to realize that the man is actually bankrupt, he have no money, what are you going to do then? Or you know, you borrow your partner car, or your friend van or something, and you go down to the house and you relax in your life and say, this is my nice ride. And you fool them up and you know, you make them feel real good. So every time you're going down there, you borrow the car and you're enjoying time and think, you know, yeah. I'll buy this just recently. And then that's for to go to work. But you understand what I'm getting at? The point here is that in life, when we work on this issue as being the main principle, we are going to find out that it's going to bring destruction all the way along. It's going to be a form of destruction in that relationship. And many a times we build these expectations in our children that, you know, that you have to have this, you have to have that before you get married. And it is a problem in many parts of North America, South America, different parts of the world where Muslims are in this Western Hemisphere, where they think to themselves that if they can't, you know, fulfill these expectations, they cannot get married. And especially the key issue is money. Most of them. So what they do, they import wives or get women from outside and poorer countries and bring them in and marry them instead. Because they find it more easy and convenient to do this. And this is happening at a rapid rate in many of these countries. It's not like it's something strange that we should keep in closed doors, but we must know that these are issues that are affecting us in our society, in our present state and time society. Our Muslims and our children who are growing up will have these challenges as well if we do not resort or solve the problem of this first key issue of money. And we build this expectation that I will send our children to have so much years of education. And when they reach 30 and 40 years, then they no longer become a good product wife, nor a good product husband. Because they're not material for wife nor for husband. They have reached an age where they cannot be of use in that relationship anymore. It's sad to say, but this is what we put our children through when they reach that age for marriage, and we avoid them from getting married. All right? So one must consider very carefully that one of the key factors that destroy relationships today is the number one issue is money. And it affects us from the very outset, the very set go. And we have to change that mentality within our society today before it actually starts to become a more sickening sight for our future young Muslim brothers and sisters. But for ourselves in our current relationship, we must bear in mind that it is issues today. And how do we deal with it? One is money. And we'll come to it, how to deal with that issue if every time we in our relationship, for many years we're in a relationship, 40, 50 years, 30 years we're in a marital relationship, and the only thing at the end of all of those years, how much money you save, my dear darling, we want to go on a vacation, or you want to do this, or you want to do that, you want to buy this, money. After all that, you're still talking about what? Money? Come on, something had to be wrong, really wrong, to still be talking about money. Or what your retirement fund going to be like, what we going to relax on. You know, you're still worrying about your one foot in the grave already, as you say. But you're still worrying about what? How are we going to live if we don't have the savings in the bank? Come on, you have to study about what? How are you going to die? In what condition? You're studying about how much money in the bank. Imagine you go through all of your marital relationship and you reach this old age and still worrying about that. Then you didn't bring up your children with the ability that they know that to take care of their parents, to show love and affection and look after them in all respects. Imagine that. You reach a stage where you're still talking about money, you put your children in a mentality that they need money, and they forget all about caring and loving and looking after you. When that is lost, what do we expect out of life? The second point we look at here, and then we discuss it after, in-laws. They are the focus of blame in our marriage. Anything go wrong, is your mother said so, or your father said so. This one said that. Because you're quick to blame your in-laws first. So the next target for destruction and arguments starts with your in-laws. You're quick to blame them. In a conscious relationship, a Muslim husband and a Muslim wife, Muslim, not just saying he's Muslim, talking about Muslim actually understanding what it is to be in a relationship with each other, would understand that your in-laws were not there to destroy your marriage in the first place. They wanted someone to be what? Good for their what? Their daughter or their son. They're not going to get them married to destroy them. So how in our naive mind we would think that they are the cause for we to separate? Who puts that there? You understand? They would go through the length of bringing up a boy or a girl, bringing them in a marital relationship for the purpose of getting them separated. Now, this is what happens. This is what happens, and we blame them for this. Who are to really be blamed? Who should be the center focus of the relationship? And what should the couple be doing to their parents? Or displaying what type of action to their parents? You understand what is happening in our society today? These are the issues that affect us. Right? These are the issues that throw us apart when we think about our spouses like this. When, lo and behold, they are the ones that really should be supporting us if we support our parents in our relationship, in our marriage. And we have it all the way wrong. We always look at them as the enemy, the wrong one. That your parents like this and your parents like that. And you can't go by them to stay again, and I can't go by them to stay. If you can't go by them, I can't go by them. It's so naive to think how far we have reached into the mental, disposition in our lives that we could go to the extent of blaming each other's parents. We as Muslims must understand, if we cannot serve our parents in the proper way, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it in such a way that we would look at them differently. And it's happening in our society. That curse, that type of mentality is affecting the hearts today, that we look at each other with that level of dislike towards each other's parents. If we had done the right things as couples, in other words, show to our children, show to our relationship, our spouses, that I am prepared to support your parents, and you must be prepared to support my parents, no matter what they put forward by words and whatever actions they have. Overlook those things, because you say, well, you see, they're not religious, I don't want to go by them. They're not like the only righteous part, They behave like that. When I go there, just get on so. Come on. If we want their lives to change, we must be meaningful to them as well. So if we do the right things, inshallah, Allah will put it in their heart that they would love us and would love to see that the relationship go well. And that is something that we have to work on. Inshallah, we'll continue from there, inshallah, in the next class. Jazakallahu khairan. Let's make dua, inshallah. Allahumma ameen. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين وسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.